In just 150 years, we've dramatically altered the workings of our planet. Burning fossil fuels and dumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere has disrupted our oceans, our ecosystems, and our weather. So what happens after we stop emitting? And I mean long after. Which of these changes to our planet are here to stay? And what does that mean for the choices that we make today? I'm Adam, a climate scientist with a PhD from Oxford, sharing what you need to know about climate change. And today I want to peer into the deep future of our climate, the lessons we can learn up to 50,000 years from today. And there's a reason I want to talk about this right now. You see, I just hit 50,000 subscribers, and whether you've been a climate since the very beginning or you're just joining for the first time right now, I'm really thrilled you're here to talk with me about climate change. To celebrate this milestone, I'm going to see if I can still do a handstand on a skateboard. I'm saving that right for the end of the video, so stay tuned. But really in this video, I want to peer into our climate future. Normally when we talk about the future of climate changes, we talk about the coming decades, maybe up to 2100, and fair enough, that's pretty relevant to everyone alive right now. But the choices we make today, how we treat each other and the planet, won't just affect us. They'll also affect our legacy, the world we're leaving for generations long into the future. So then, what climate legacy are we leaving for these future generations? Well, of course, there are limits to what we can know, so stick around for the crucial caveats towards the end of the video. But first, let's start by looking at the main climate change culprit, carbon dioxide, and I want to get out of my apartment for this. In 150 years, we've completely changed our planet. Let's visualize that 150 years as a single step. In that one step, we've raised CO2 levels in our atmosphere higher than they've been in millions of years. So the question is, how long until those levels drop back down? Before making this video, I honestly didn't know the answer to this question, and I was curious what you all thought as well. And about half of you reckoned that it would take centuries from now for levels to get back to normal, just a few steps from where I am now. Well, you got it completely wrong, and I'm incredibly disappointed in you, because the actual answer is tens to hundreds of thousands of years. You see, all sorts of processes remove carbon dioxide from the air. Some of them are faster, like plants, and the upper ocean absorbing CO2. That process is actually called ocean invasion, which, well, it sounds a lot more exciting than it is. But these speedy processes can only do so much, and then it's a job for carbon dioxide to make its way all the way to the bottom of our seas and into ocean sediments. And because our oceans are so incredibly massive, this takes thousands of years. But even after all that, some 10,000 years in the future, there would still be like a fifth of the carbon dioxide we emitted left in the atmosphere. Like, I cannot stress enough how wild this is. All that CO2 we emitted in just one single step, and a massive chunk of it would still be around 70 steps, 10,000 years into the future. I mean, 70 steps into the past, this was cutting-edge technology. For CO2 to get all the way back down to its original levels, it would need to get absorbed by rocks. And if you've ever watched a rock, you'll know they're pretty slow, which means we're looking at hundreds of thousands of years for CO2 levels to get all the way back down. That's like the entire length of this runway I'm stood on. Okay, time to head back indoors. Since the CO2 in our atmosphere acts as a blanket insulating our planet, a thicker blanket for a long-ass time means a hotter planet for a long-ass time. So how hot for how long? Well, once we stop emitting CO2, our best estimate is that temperatures quickly stop going up or down, at least for the first few decades. More information on why up here. But the story a few thousand years into the future isn't actually that different. One study calculated that 2/3 of the heating we cause will still be around 10,000 years into the future. That's this far from where we are today. Now, it's important to point out how scientists look at questions like this. We obviously don't have some crystal ball or some spare Earth we can do experiments on. So we have to build one instead. We build model Earths where the atmosphere, ocean, ice, forests, they all work as accurately as possible, capturing the processes that we see here on our real Earth. This model doesn't sit on top of a table though. It runs on some of the most powerful supercomputers that humans have ever built. And these computer models are incredible, allowing us climate scientists to ask questions like, what will temperatures look like in 10,000 years? But these models aren't perfect, so their answers aren't perfect either. In fact, different models can give slightly different answers. One thing all the models agree on, though, is that the changes we've already caused and that we're still causing today, we're stuck with a lot of it for many thousands of years. And when I say we, I mean our children's 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 children's. And when I say it, I don't just mean we're stuck with higher temperatures. I mean we're stuck with extreme weather that's more frequent and more extreme. We're stuck with regions made harder to live in and harder to grow food in. We're stuck with ecosystems pushed way out of balance. And if we've crossed them, we could be stuck with tipping elements. These are aspects of our planet which could effectively collapse to a different state, and then it's very hard to get them back. The vast ocean circulation in the Atlantic regulating the world's weather could switch off, or huge amounts of carbon could be released from frozen regions. If these things do happen and temperatures stay high for many thousands of years, it would be very hard for these collapses to reverse. And being stuck with higher temperatures also means we're stuck with higher seas. But ice and oceans take many thousands of years to balance out with the new temperatures. So it's not that our seas would just stay high for thousands of years. They would actually keep rising for thousands of years, long after CO2 levels and temperatures peaked. Say we limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius. That could mean about half a meter more sea level rise by the end of this century, enough to have serious consequences for the many millions of people living in coastal regions around the world. But zoom out over the next 10,000 years and that's just the tip of the mostly melted iceberg. Our seas would be some 10 meters higher, enough to redraw the lines on our maps. And it's not like climate scientists are just guessing that this could happen. We know that after our planet left the last ice age, seas kept rising long after temperatures leveled out. And past ice ages have something else to teach us too. You see, over the past hundreds of thousands of years, the Earth has experienced shifts in and out of these colder periods. So the natural question is, when will the next ice age start? Well, a group of researchers looked at how carbon dioxide, the Earth's orbit, and the planet's ice are all linked. They expect that the next ice age would start around 50,000 years into the future, if humans hadn't emitted any carbon dioxide. But we have emitted carbon dioxide, and the emissions that we've already churned out today push the ice age way back, making it highly unlikely in the next 120,000 years. I don't say this because delaying the next ice age is necessarily inherently bad, but this shows just how powerful the planet-altering effects of CO2 are. Half of the CO2 we've emitted in just the last 30 years, within my lifetime. And this will have fundamental impacts on our planet, not just over the coming decades, but tens, even hundreds of thousands of years into the future. I mean, 50,000 years into the past, modern humans were making their way across the planet for the very first time. And our actions today will profoundly affect our planet more than 50,000 years into the future. As one of the studies I looked at in this video put it, the decisions being made today will have profound and permanent consequences for future generations, as well as for the planet. And today's decision makers do not have to live with the consequences of their decisions. But let's take a deep breath, because there are some very important disclaimers. Since we're talking about such vast timescales, there's loads of other stuff that could happen in the meantime. I'm talking volcanoes, asteroids, or honestly, some processes that affect our planet's climate that we simply don't know or understand yet. The projections described in this video are possibilities for our future, not what will happen. And on that note, I know that these projections can make us feel powerless, knowing that changes could stick around for so long. But actually, each and every one of these results makes clear just how much power we still have. They show that actions we take to limit emissions now limit carbon dioxide concentrations not just today and tomorrow, but for tens of thousands of years into the future. And that means limiting the heating and all the other disruptive changes our planet goes through for all this time too. Which brings us to the biggest question mark in all of this. Us. How quickly will we stop emitting, and what will we do afterwards? After all, why stop at stopping emitting? Once we've learnt to balance out our emissions, why not keep cutting emissions and sucking up more and more CO2? Why not shift from a society that treats the atmosphere and this entire planet as a dumping ground to a society that treasures this home of ours and actively tries to restore it? And look, this channel is generally about what the science can tell us. But how can science begin to tell us how our society will develop over the next decades, centuries, and millennia? So I know that this is very unscientific of me, but I have to share that I really do believe that a kinder society that cares for community and the climate is possible. And speaking of community, it really does mean the world to me to have over 50,000 of you climates here with me now. I hate the idea of selling you all stuff that you don't need, and so it's amazing being able to make videos like this one and not have to put ads or sponsor messages on it. I can do that all thanks to my incredible patrons. If you fancy it, you can join them up here. I don't know what this channel's future will look like 50,000 more subscribers from now, but I'm excited to go on that journey with all of you. And if you valued this journey into our planet's distant future, you might enjoy my trip into our home's deep past. Right, enough about climate change, time for the main event. Let's see whether I can still do a handstand on a skateboard. Okay, until next time, bye. Oh my gosh.